Now, last but certainly not least, my good friend, Mr. Weber from the state of Texas. You're recognized for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to wave on and saving the best for last. I would like to thank the subcommittee for that very opportunity, H.R. 6832, the Packaging and Claims Knowledge, or PAC Act. I would also like to thank the committee staff who have been working diligently with our office for several months to finalize this language and provisions within the PAC Act as it stands today. Finally, I would like to thank Ameripen and the larger coalition of food manufacturers, packaging associations, and consumer advocacy organizations for their continued support of the PAC Act and its goal to create a consistent and voluntary federal framework for environmental claims on various products. I like to say, suffice it to say, we might be able to actually package a better life for our kids and our grandkids and a safer future for them. Let me come to you, Mr. Hewitt, if I can. One of the primary issues we are seeing with respect to recycling and environmental claims is consumer confusion. The lack of a standardized labeling regimen leaves consumers less informed when making purchasing decisions and confused. As we've all stood over two different bins, we've talked about that and tried to decide what to do with this particular piece of product. As I always like to say, it shouldn't take a lawyer to have to figure out a recycling bin. So if we're able to put those clear definitions for recyclable, compostable, and yes, reusable packaging into federal law, wouldn't that be better than relying solely on non-binding guidance? Would that help consumers in our, I say my district, but actually across the country? You agree?
Yes, sir. I would agree, and thank you for bringing this important piece of legislation and your support of our MAA. But yes, minimizing consumer confusion is the least we can do. We can accomplish that through your bill with standardized definitions and then ensuring that consumers are protected with third-party certification that the PAC Act provides.
Then actually get a better, like I said in my kind of opening comments, a better environment for our children. And, you know, I happen to have 3 kids, 8 grandkids, and 2 great-grandchildren. So it's important for me, and absolutely, and I'm gonna stay with you, Mr. Hewitt, if I can. Another one of the current problems with environmental claims, I think we all recognize, is the patchwork of state regulations. And they vary very widely depending on where you are. And of course, we're talking about California's lawmakers who enacted SB 343, which for the life of me, I don't understand, prohibits the use of the chasing arrows symbol. They used to have that in cowboys and, Indians, country westerns back in the day. I guess they all had arrow symbols. That's a joke. Y'all can laugh at that. But at any rate, are there any recyclability claim unless the product meets specific criteria determined solely by one state, California? I know there's been some legal action on it, okay? Can you go further into how policies like those being presented in California would hurt? And I will say even not just California, because there's still that confusion. Not only consumers in California, but in the long run, a direct impact of the increased burdens having been in business over 35 years. Businesses don't need those kinds of uncertain impacts on businesses. Would you agree? How can it change?
Well, I would agree, and I would note, just with respects to California, that just last week, the court issued the preliminary injunction finding that large portions of the definitions and the mandates that they prescribed were unconstitutionally vague. So, we, again, had a patchwork now cast into more uncertainty as we navigate the legal process with respect to that one state law. But it's not one state, it's dozens. And that is part of the problem. Companies must navigate these conflicting definitions. Consumers must navigate these conflicting definitions across, like I said earlier, nearly 10,000 different, recycling jurisdictions. And so having this certainty with standardized definitions, with third-party accounting, as well as third-party verification that goes along with it, is ultimately good for consumers. It's good for businesses.
I think it is too, and I've got 30 seconds left. I think that's good. A standard voluntary packaging, like we're talking about, is a good thing. Do you agree, Ms. Winslow? A standard voluntary?
I can't speak for the association, but me personally, sure.
Is it Bray? Is that how you say that?
Yes, sir.
A good standard policy would be a good thing.
Well, Congressman, I think we support bills like California's that set a high bar in this space.
Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Mr. Castro?
Yes, I think federal preemption here is important. Thank you.
Mr. Brady, I think you're outvoted. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.